The Queen Victoria Building is a heritage-listed late 19th century building designed by the architect George McGray, located at 429 to 481 George Street in the Sydney Central Business District, in the Australian state of New South Wales. The Romanesque Revival building was constructed between 1893 and 1898 and is 30 meters wide by 190 meters long. The domes were built by Ritchie Brothers, a steel and metal company that also built trains, trams, and farm equipment. The building fills a city block bounded by George, Market, York, and Druitt Streets, designed as a marketplace. It was used for a variety of other purposes. Underwent remodeling and suffered decay until its restoration and returned to its original use in the late 20th century. The property is owned by the City of Sydney and was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on 5th of March 2010. The site has been under control of the Council of Sydney since 1842. The Sydney town was incorporated. It was previously the location for municipal markets, the first of which, a simple storehouse, was put up by Gregory Blaxland under Governor Macquarie's leadership. It was subsequently envisaged as a grand civic square by architect Francis Greenway. In the 1830s, 4 substantial stone walls were built to design the Ambrose Hallin, and later the site was selected for the construction of a marvelous centre of trade. The building, on the scale of a cathedral, was designed by George McGray, a Scottish architect who had immigrated to Sydney in 1884. At the time, Sydney was undergoing a building boom, and since in architecture no one school or style predominated, McGray produced 4 designs for the building in different styles: Gothic, Renaissance, Queen Anne, and Romanesque, from which the council could choose. The council's choice of Victorian Romanesque style conveys the influences of American architects Henry Hobson Richardson. The use of columns, arches, and prodigal amount of details, such as was used by McGray in the chosen design, are typical of Richardsonian Romanesque, an eclectic style identifiably established between 1877 and 1886. The predominant feature of the building is the central dome, which consists of an interior glass dome and a copper sheath exterior, topped by a domed cupola. Smaller domes of various sizes are on the rooftop, including ones on each upper corner of the rectangular building. Stained glass windows, including cartwheel window, depicting the arms of the City of Sydney, allowing light into the central area. And the roof itself incorporates arched skylights running lengthways north and south from the central dome. The colonnades, arches, and balustrades and cupolas are of typically intricate Victorian style. The site, an entire city block, had previously been occupied by a produce market and the Central Police Court. These uses ceased in 1891 and the land was purchased by City Sydney Council. The Australian Builder and Contractors News described the full design in July 1893 as scholarly Renaissance, picturesque Queen Anne, classic Gothic, and American Romanesque. The style chosen was the latter, and the foundation stone was laid in December 1893 by the Mayor, Sir William Manning. This foundation stone was a 5-ton block of granite, levied and lowered into position at the corner of George and Druitt Streets. The ceremony was the first of a series in which successive mayors laid stones and plaques to mark the progress of construction. The building was notable for its employment in the expansive barrel foam roof of engineering systems, which were very advanced at the time of construction. McGray is considered by architectural historians to be one of the leading protagonists of the new construction methods and materials, which were then beginning to break down the conservatism of building techniques. In achieving the strength and space of the building, McRae used steel, iron, concrete, reinforcing, machine-made bricks, glass, imported tiles, fireproofing, riveting, and hydraulics on an unprecedented scale. The building was finally completed and opened with great ceremony on Mayor Matthew Harris on 21st of July 1898. In the lavish ceremony, Alderman Harris said that the building was intended to be more than a municipal market, which judicious management, he said, a marvelous center of trade will be established here. In 1897, the council resolved to dedicate the new market buildings, then still under construction, to Queen Victoria and to name them the Queen Victoria Market Buildings, in commemoration of her Diamond Jubilee. In order to mark in a fitting manner the unprecedented and glorious reign of Her Majesty the Queen, so fruitful in blessings to the British people in every land. The Sydney Morning Herald, 10th of June, 1897. The councillors decided not to ask for the Queen's assent, in part because it would have made it necessary to have the royal coat of arms on the building. The markets were originally held in the building, are relocated in 1910. The name was amended in 1918 to Queen Victoria Buildings. Finally, in 1987, the council rescinded the 1918 resolution and named it the Queen Victoria Building. The building was constructed between 1893 and 1898 by the Phippard brothers, Henry, born 1854, and Edwin, born 1864. The leading building contractors of Sydney, whose quarries at Borough and Waverley supplied the trachyte and sandstone respectively. The building was officially opened on Thursday, 21st of July 1898, and provided a business environment for tailors, mercers, dressers, florists, and coffee shops, as well as showrooms and a concert hall. In the evening, there was a grand ball for more than 1,000 guests held in an adjacent town hall, at which then Lord Mayor of Sydney, Matthew Harris, made a speech that reflected faith in the future and the great theme of the Victorian age of optimism, by saying, "A less costly building would have provided ample market accommodation, but it would have been short-sighted to have only studied the present to the exclusion of that great future, which far-seeing men will agree will be almost infinite in possibilities." The Druitt Street entrance was opened by Lady Mayoress using a commemorative solid gold key, on which was a model of the main dome and the smaller cupolas, worth a good deal more than £50, made by Fairfax and Roberts and presented by the Phippard brothers. The building was illuminated by about 1,000 Welsh-Batch incandescent burners, equal in lighting power about 70,000 candles, producing floods of light that even in the basement was judged to be perfect. The Public Lending Library was planned as early as 1899, and both the City of Sydney Library and the Electricity Department were long-time occupants. May Wong Tart's Tea Room, Elite Hall, was formally opened by the Mayor of Sydney, Matthew Harris, in 1898. The tea rooms were on the ground floor near the centre of the markets, fronting George Street. A plush carpeted staircase led to the function hall on the first floor. The Elite Hall had capacity for nearly 500 people and included a stage with an elaborately carved proscenium. At the other end was the Elite Dining Saloon, described as having elegant appointments. The original concept was for an internal shopping street 186 metres long with 2 levels of shops on either side. And in 1917 and 1935, alterations converted the interior to office space with shops to the external street frontages. in the first few decades of the QVB had the atmosphere of an Oriental bazaar. The earliest tenants conducted a mixture of commerce, crafts, and skills. There were shops, studios, offices, and workrooms for some to 200 traders, dealers, and artisans. Housed within the upper galleries were more studious and scholarly tenancies, such as bookshops, sheet music shops, piano sellers, and piano tuners, as well as the salons of private teachers of music, studio, singing, elocution, painting, sculpting, drawing, and dressmaking. There were also more decorous sports including billiard saloon, a gymnasium for ladies, and a table tennis hall. The building was heavily criticized in the early years of its operation due to its poor financial return. Original real estate advice indicated the building could pay for itself from rents received within 30 years. The first few years were slow. In 1898, only 47 out of 200 available spaces were tenanted. This improved by the following year with another 20 tenants joining the list. By 1905, there were 150 tenants, but it was not only till 1917 that the building was reaching its maximum tenancy rate. Up until that time, there was a continuous shortfall between the cost to the council and the rents received, and council was constantly looking at ways of improving its return. There will be a second episode. Have a nice day.